Hi, it's Mary Alice here back with you. And I want to redo a video that I posted last week because when I watched it again, I realized I didn't even explain that whole meditative process that was just the reason I made the video. I got lost in thought and went down a rabbit hole. So anyway, I want to talk about that quickly. And this is in regards to my whole series on our self-image, because our self-image is the foundation for our self-worth and self-esteem and other things. And I talked about how our image is a mosaic of thousands of other images that are embedded within ourself, about life, about what we think of other people, all the belief systems, the feelings we have, the thoughts, the memories, the good times, the holidays, family, friend, all that good stuff. And for many of us, sometimes there's trauma. There are the pictures, those images of trauma. And I'm talking about the emotional images, okay? We have these emotional images and we created a coping mechanism around that when we were young because we had to survive what we were going through, whatever that might have been for you. And those images have images, and those images have images, and they're not great. They don't serve us anymore. As kids, perfect. We needed it. As adults, no. And they're still embedded in us. So how do we swap out some of those images, so to speak? It sounds like a metaphor, but actually it's also based in some real truth that we are a compilation, a mosaic of all these pieces within us that's connected to our personality or creates part of our personality that covers up our authentic self or highlights our authentic self. It's depending on what those images are, right? So first and foremost, it's going to be, I'm going to say therapy or counseling is really, really, really helpful for some of those things we want to swap out. We want to change. We want to live better, feel better, do better. Some examples, again, this is generically speaking, but let's say someone really lives on the edge and they're always like, just ready to explode. They have anger up to their eyeballs and they're defensive. They don't respond to anything, they just react because of their defense mechanism is so strong because it had to be when they were children. And they just dragged it into adulthood. And I've heard over and over, that's just who I am. And I'm like, not really. Let's dissect that. Parts of you are in there, but not the one that's destructive and hurtful for you and to others. Or somebody whose coping mechanism had to be one to hide or be a people pleaser or, just don't rock the boat. Don't say anything. That was me. And you've heard my story. And if you haven't, it's on several videos on my YouTube channel. So that was how I had to cope. And that wasn't great for me as an adult. Those things were all embedded in me and I dragged them into adulthood and I made a great codependent. And that wasn't who I really am. Bits and pieces were, but not the hurtful parts. And some people grow up to be workaholics. They just work themselves to the bone. They hide behind their work because, as an example, as children, if they didn't get those A+ in school, if they weren't the best person on their sports team, if they didn't have the cleanest room in the house, they wouldn't be loved. Their parents loved them very conditionally and made it known that way. So they're the ones that work double hard or, they just work and then they embed that in them and then they work themselves to the bone as adults. They don't know how to relate. They don't know how to have a decent relationship because it's all compounded into working themselves to a tizzy, to thinking that's how you gain love. And it does the opposite because you're working so hard, you're avoiding the people that you want to be with and they want to be with you. But they can't because you're working so hard. Does that make sense? We weave these tangled webs, right? And we do it unconsciously. We don't even know it's happening until life happens to us. And then we go, oh gosh, I can't do this again. What is going on? I need help. And then we go for help. So there are many other examples like that, but I think you know where I'm getting at, right? We want to swap out those images. We want to change out those feelings. We don't want to be triggered. We want to be loved and we want to love. How do we do that? Again, therapy or counseling is the best way to go. If you can't do that, because I know it's terribly expensive for a lot of people, and some insurance companies only have like 5 sessions, which just cracks that nut. So that's unfortunate, and I hope we can change that in our country. Mental health is extremely important, and we brush it under the rug. But if that's not possible, there are a lot of wonderful coaches and mentors who deal in some of these subject matters, and I'm one of them. I mean, I've been doing this for a very long time. So there's that avenue as well. There are, let's say, TED Talks. Figure out the subject, like what information do you want to get for yourself? Like just starting, like how can I start working on this? How do I see myself? What other person has struggled with this, and how did they overcome it? There are so many different ways to find out, and different people I've listened to over the years, that's for sure. So yeah, there's that method. You can go on YouTube, you can find out. Lewis Howes is really great. He has a very good podcast that's excellent that airs on YouTube. So many other people also who are very, very helpful. Jack Canfield's very helpful. But you need more more personal help. So I would shoot for people who struggled in the same way you do, and they've overcome it, and you want to find out. So that's another way you can do it. Books are always helpful. Lots of books. Browse Barnes & Noble if you have one around you, or a bookstore. I still love physical books. I still read physical books. I'm not one who reads on a screen. I can't do it. I can't. So, but yeah, lots of books. That's good too. And here's another way, and this is why I'm redoing this video, because the last one, I mentioned this type of meditation you can do, and I never went into detail about it. I got off track and went down a rabbit hole, so let me explain this, okay? This another method that is very helpful and supportive. But if it's all you have, which really isn't, because like I said, there are books, there are talks, there are ways you can find other information. But here's one way that is really, really good, and I've used it for myself, and I know other people who have, and it's very, very helpful. And this is brain researchers and scientists that I found this out about, so this has good scientific backbone to it. And it's being comfortable, whether you're lying down or sitting up, whatever, but you're comfortable and you're relaxed. You need to take some very deep breaths, slow, like starting from your gut, coming up into your brain. It's like, and you can feel it like in your brain. I mean, you're imagining it, but it's like you're starting from your toes up to your brain, and you hold that breath for 4, 5, 6 seconds. Just hold it there. Feel it deeply, okay? And then let it go slowly, okay? And then you do that about 4 times. You just breathe deeply and relax, but deep up until you feel it in your brain, because we're activating our brain, okay? And then when you're at that point, you can start to breathe a little more normally, so you're not in, but make sure you're holding that feeling, and then you put a new image of yourself in your brain. What does it look like, and what, more importantly, does it feel like to be on the other side of that problem? What do you look like? What does it feel like? Makes you happy, doesn't it? Makes you feel accomplished. It makes you feel like you can have deeper, meaningful relationships with friends and families, because you're not overreacting every second. You're not so defensive, or you're not running away because there might be conflict and you're very, very scared because that's what you had to do when you were a child, right? We want to swap out these images. So imagine yourself and feel it deeply. Do this, start for a couple minutes, and then stretch it out further every day for as long as you can to imagine what that looks like for you and what it feels like. Deeply, imagine, go all out, feel it and think it deeply, okay? Now, Our brain is like Google. Why do we have Google? We go to Google for answers. We put in a question and we want an answer. We want information. And our brain is kind of like that, actually, in our mind. So it's like the more you do this, it's like, oh, they're serious. This is how they want to be. This is how they want to change. And you'll find there'll be, slowly but surely, there'll be areas of your life that you start changing, kind of, sometimes even without you knowing. And other times it'll be that you're becoming more aware consciously of these little changes and reminders, because that image will be right in front of you, right? Now, it doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean we don't slip up, obviously, but when we are focused and we can have that mindful attention during the day, starting in the morning or when best for you, but you find some moments to relax. You can do it a couple times a day even. You will find that you're going to adapt to that image and that feeling. And you will find that you will be exposed to information that helps you to do that. So that's just another way. And I hope that's a helpful way for you to think about it. Because, like I said, that's backed by science. It takes dedication. It takes commitment. Got to do it, right? Got to do it every day. If you skip a day, okay. But skipping 2, 3, 4 days, then you kind of get back to ground zero. But just do it. Just do it. Even if you're back at ground zero, you can start again. No fault in that, okay? So I wanted to share that with you for at least some helpful information that can help you kind of swap out some of those emotional images that aren't helping you as an adult in your life, and you see that it's not helping you and you want to swap it out. Because it's become such a habit in us, we just kind of do it. We don't even think about it. And because it is such a habit, that's when people say, but that's just who I am. And it's not. We aren't born to be hiding or afraid or angry and defensive and I hate government, blah, blah, blah. That's just an overreaction because that was something that happened as a child, and you have this, pardon me, that was your coping mechanism for some people, was to be rebellious and angry and defensive, and others would run and hide, and others will become the workaholic. Others become addicted. They don't even want to deal with the pain. They don't want to think about it. So it's easier to just numb out. Well, we know that that's, in the long run, not easier and terribly detrimental. So thank you for listening. And I'm going to be back soon because I want to talk about a little bit more sensitive topic that I think needs to be just a little bit discussed about ourself and about the things that we hold inside ourselves, the secrets we hold, the pain we hold. Because you've heard me say before, we only are as strong as our weakest link. So when we figure out our weakest link inside us, that weak image, if we put it that way, there are many, many different symbolisms we can give to this. Pardon me, but so when we are holding things in, it makes us a little more tender and weak. So I'm going to talk about that next video. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you have a great day, because you know what I'm going to say, that you are an amazing human being. You are. You're here. And there's only one of you. You're a miracle on this planet. Out of the billions of people that ever have lived and that live now, there's only one of you. Just one. And I know you want to be the best you that you can be. And you matter very, very much. You matter. Don't ever forget that. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk with you soon.